Some of the content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. So in 1885, a story emerged out of Bedford County, Virginia, that there was treasure of gold, silver, and jewels estimated to be in the worth of $43 million as of 2017. So the history of this treasure goes that it was the early 1800s. There was a group of 30 miners who stumbled upon gold and silver while hunting. They spent 18 months mining the treasure from a mine north of Santa Fe. Thomas J. Beale was known as the leader who was supposed to transport the treasure back to Virginia. From there, Beale made ciphers with the location and description of what was hidden in it and who the owners were of it. There are 3 ciphers or encoded messages. The ciphers were then placed in an iron box and they were given to a friend of Beale's named Robert Morris. He was told not to open the box unless Beale or one of his men failed to return from their journey within 10 years. So some months go by and Beale mails a letter to Morris saying that the key would arrive, but it never did. In 1845, 20-some years later, Morris goes and actually opens the box and he cannot break the code. So another period of time passes and he gives the box to an unnamed friend. This unnamed person was able to crack the second code using the Declaration of Independence. Unable to decrypt the other ciphers, the unnamed person then gave it to another friend named James Ward, who then published them in 1885. Ward is not the unnamed friend and is almost untraceable except owning a home in which Robert Morris's wife died in. The decrypted page 2, and I'll read this here for you guys. I have deposited in the county of Bedford, about 4 miles from Beaufort, in an excavation vault 6 feet below the surface of the ground. The following articles belonging jointly to the parties whose names are given in number 3 are herewith. The first deposit consisted of 1,014 pounds of gold and 3,812 pounds of silver, deposited November 1819. The second was made December 1821, and that consisted of 1,907 pounds of gold and 1,288 pounds of silver. Also jewels obtained in St. Louis in exchange to saved for transportation and valued at about $13,000. So, and then the above is securely packed in iron pots with iron covers. The vault is roughly lined with stone and the vessels rest on solid stone and are covered with others. Paper number 1 describes the exact locality of the vault, so that no difficulty will be had in finding it. So, is it real? Is it fake? Back in the 60s, Carl Hammer used supercomputers to try to decrypt it and found that they were actually very poorly encoded. Cryptographers have said that there's statistical data characteristics and not plain English in some of the documents. And some questions are, why 3 pages and not 1? And then the third page also potentially appears to be too short for next of kin for 30 men. So, I don't know.
Wouldn't the first page be the only one that really anybody cares about? Because it'll say where it's at.
Yeah, but that's the other thing too, is that if they were able to decrypt page 2 to tell you what it is,
right?
Wouldn't you want to? That's another skeptic point of view to it. So. But for a long time now in Bedford County, there's been tons of people that have been going there trying to find this treasure that have really had no luck. Some people claim to have found it on Decoded, that show on the History Channel. There was a guy that thought that he had found it in Philadelphia, but page 2 describes that it's in Bedford County. So
right. Well, did anybody go back over page 2 and sit down with it with the Declaration of Independence and realize if that's actually correct?
Yes, yeah. And you can actually do it yourself. Like, they give you the key so that you can do it yourself. And what it does is it gives you numbers here.
Is that like a letter in the...
So like word 115, first letter, and that's your... And then
right.
word 73, that first letter. and then that's how you can spell out this thing. So,
I mean, we don't even. I mean, the counties and state lines and counties weren't even outlined right in the early 1800s. You know, I mean,
you got a point there. Yeah.
I mean, how do they even know? These people might. Would you say the name of the city was?
Bedford County, Virginia.
Bedford County.
Yes.
So, I mean, people might be going there to look for this, and they might not even be in the right area because things weren't really defined correctly in the early 1800s like they are.
Yeah. So no, that's a good point.
Especially like, what if he was basing it off of certain structures that were around?
They're gone now.
In that time, and that stuff's all gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always thought this was an interesting story. Like I said, is it real? Is it not? I mean, there
could be a building built on top of this.
No,
right?
The area in which they think that it is, it's still like
is it?
Very rural and like hilly areas. I'll pull up a picture here and show you. That like they thought that this part here was like where it started because there was like a rock that had like a formation that looked like a face of something, and then they were like, oh, that looks like I think it was like a dolphin or something. I don't know, but
so they haven't found any way. They've never actually deciphered the first or the third page.
No, only page that's why they also think that it might be a hoax, just because
that dude probably gave all this shit out and he's like, in 10 years, figure this out. Meanwhile, he's at home with the treasure. Like,
right.
If you look at this too, where they talk about Cipher 3, it doesn't look like you can get enough letters out of this to make names for 30 people.
I didn't think it looked like you can get enough letters out of the second page to say everything you read to me, unless it's like first initial, last name.
And how intelligent was this Beale character? I mean, was he, I mean, this, no idiot would just put this together. I mean, you have to have some brains to do something like this, right?
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing, too, is that, like, he had a, if you know the code, like, you can put together anything really quickly.
That's
you
true.
Know what I mean?
That's true. I'm assuming, do people even today still go there looking for this?
Oh, yeah.
So it's still a popular area.
I mean, it's still popular, but again, like I said, it's kind of died down over the last, 20 years, especially with computers being able to decrypt things now. Here's another thing that they said that might lead it to be a hoax as well. There are words used in the ciphers created in early 1800s that were not known to be used until the 1820s. The letters also contain several English words such as improvise, not otherwise recorded before the 1820s. So
that doesn't mean they weren't around, though.
Yeah, that's what I said. Again, this is just another thought. This is off a wiki, so
those words were used in England. A lot of those words were still in England before they came over. We started adapting to the English. Well,
I mean, look at America now. They all make up their own fucking words. Yeah. So everything could have been anything.
That's another interesting thing. Like, language is becoming shortened and pluralized.
Language is becoming dumber and dumber.
Oh yeah. No, selfie is in the dictionary. Selfie.
Yeah, that's
how.
And that's because people don't even have to speak anymore. All they do is send text messages to each other. You know?
Well, and that's the other thing too. Is that, we're getting to a point where we're able to shorten our words. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
Everything's abbreviated.
Yeah. That too. That's the other thing too.
I think it's scary, especially young generation. They don't.
Well, what it is it just makes people dumber.
Right.
Well,
you can thank technology for that.
Yeah.
Well, you can thank people being fucking dumb.
Well, that too. But I mean, the technology makes people lazy.
I wonder if all of this shit that you see here in America is the same everywhere else.
I don't think it's as bad.
Oh, another theory here too is that Edgar Allan Poe has suggested to be the author of the pamphlet. He had an interest in cryptography and used it as a plot device in several of his works, most notably The Gold Bug. So that's another piece of information off of Wiki. So yeah, I mean, if you want to go down to Virginia and hunt some treasure,
let's do it.
43 million sitting around somewhere down there.
I would do it in a heartbeat if I had the time. I'd go down there and do something like that.
You got the time.
Well, I do got the time right now. That's true.
Yeah. Let's go. All right. Real or fake, you decide.
Coming up on the next episode of Type 3 TV.
She was not decapitated, though pretty darn close to it. She basically suffered a traumatic brain and scalp injury. Her skull was basically crushed.
Well, that's it for this week's episode. If you like what you saw, please like, share, subscribe, and comment below. I'm John Budzinski. From The Mistake on the Lake, this is Type 3 TV. Over and out.